So if you're a professional, maybe over 55, and you're building your next chapter, you've probably asked yourself, what does it really take to make this thing succeed? We're told all the time to set 10 goals, to hustle, to learn every new tool out there. But what if the answer is actually way simpler and a whole lot more powerful? Today we're going to zero in on one single question. What is the one thing that, by doing it, makes everything else easier or completely unnecessary? Let's get into it.
Okay, let me start with a little confession here. Right now, as I'm talking to you, I have 47 browser tabs open. No joke. I've got YouTube strategies, AI tools I'm convinced I have to learn, productivity systems, courses I've paid good money for and never even opened, and the honest-to-goodness truth, not a single one of them is helping me do the actual work.
Sound familiar? Yeah, I'm willing to bet it does. For folks like us with decades of experience, this feeling of being incredibly busy but not actually productive, it's probably the single biggest hurdle in our second act. And the crazy part is, the very skills that made us successful in our careers, that thorough research, the careful planning, they can become a trap. We are masters of preparation, but somewhere along the line, something gets lost when it's time to just act.
All right, so in this explainer, we're going to tackle this thing head on. We'll start with the productivity trap. Then we'll look at the two-window reality, figure out how to find your one thing, talk about the incredible power of focus, and then we'll wrap up with your first focused action.
Okay, first up, the productivity trap. And this is all about why smart, experienced people like us get stuck. It's fascinating, right? And honestly, a little frustrating. The very things that built our successful corporate careers, all that due diligence, deep analysis, careful prep, can suddenly turn into the biggest roadblocks when we're the ones running our own show. Yeah, I've got a name for this. I call it sophisticated procrastination. It's that endless cycle of chasing shiny objects, right? The new tools, the latest frameworks, another online course. It feels so productive. It even feels like hard work. But let's be honest, it's not progress. It's just preparation for progress. And when you're building your second act, believe me, that distinction means everything. And this inaction loop you see here, it nails it. You read one book, which points you to another book, you buy that book, and you know the rest. The cycle just repeats. Back in our corporate lives, this was called due diligence, and we got praised for it. But now, as an entrepreneur, it's a liability. It's just a really comfortable place to hide from the scary part, actually putting something out there for the world to see. And listen, this isn't some kind of character flaw. It's not about being lazy. It's literally just how our brains are wired. There's a name for it, the Zeigarnik effect. Basically, our minds get obsessed with unfinished tasks. So every single one of my 47 open tabs is like a little open loop just sitting there, draining the precious mental energy I need to do the real work of creating. So, how do we break free from this cycle? Well, let's talk about a really simple but powerful idea I call the two-window reality. This is the absolute key to shifting our entire approach from just consuming information to actually producing real value. So just imagine your work time is split between two windows on your computer screen. On the left, you've got the consuming window. This is where you watch tutorials, read articles, do all your research. It feels safe, right? It's all planning. But on the right, you've got the producing window. This is where you're actually writing, scripting, recording, publishing. This is the action window. And yeah, it's the vulnerability window too. So be really honest with yourself for a second. Which one of those windows gets 80% of your time? And which one is actually going to build your next chapter? And this question, right here from author Gary Keller, this is the lever. This is what shifts our focus from that safe left window to the powerful right window. It's all about stopping the chase for 100 little pebbles and instead finding that one massive domino that's going to knock down all the others. This is how we find our one thing. Which brings us right to our next section, finding your one thing. And to do this, we're going to borrow Stephen Covey's classic Big Rocks principle. You probably know it. The idea is simple, right? If you fill up your jar with all the sand and little pebbles first, the small tasks, the endless research, you're never going to have room for the big, important rocks that actually matter. Okay, so let's run through a quick filter to find your big rock. First question for you. What's the one skill or the one action that would act as a multiplier? And I really mean that. Not just another thing to do, but something that would make a dozen other things in your new venture easier or maybe even totally unnecessary. Now, this second question, this is often the most revealing one. What are you avoiding simply because it scares you? I'll be honest, for me, for the longest time, it was being on camera. It meant being seen, which felt vulnerable.
That fear, I've learned, is almost always a giant flashing neon sign pointing directly at your biggest opportunity for growth. All right, let's add a little pressure. Think in terms of a 90-day sprint. If you could only work on one single thing for the next 3 months, what's the one thing that would create the most momentum? We're not looking for what's easy here. We're looking for the action that creates compounding returns, the thing that builds on itself. Okay, this next one is so critical, especially for us at this stage in our lives. Ask yourself, what skill would serve me even if my current goal fails? Even if this specific business idea doesn't work out? See, when you choose a big rock that builds a transferable skill, like great storytelling or making videos, or even just getting good at sales, your effort is never ever wasted. It becomes an asset that you carry with you no matter what. And finally, the ultimate honesty test. Come on, you know what it is. What's that one thing you've been learning about forever without actually doing? The project you just keep researching? The skill you're always about to start? Yeah, that's almost certainly your big rock, hiding in plain sight right behind that wall of sophisticated procrastination we talked about. Okay, so now that we have the filter, let's talk about the real power of focus. And to make this really concrete, I'm going to share my own public and very imperfect commitment with you. Because it's one thing to talk about this stuff in theory, right? It's something else entirely to actually put it into practice. So here it is. My big rock is to build and grow the Retirepreneur YouTube channel. And notice that word, build. Not learn about YouTube, not plan for YouTube. Build it. That one word forces me out of the left window and into the right one, out of research and into creation. It's specific, it's actionable, and if I'm being totally honest, it's terrifying, which is exactly how I know it's the right one. And this is what that actually looks like in practice for me. This is my 2-window strategy. I am intentionally flipping my time. Only 20% is for learning, and it's just-in-time learning, for when I'm truly stuck on something. The other 80%? That's dedicated to the right window, the doing, the actual work of scripting, recording, editing, and hitting publish. You see, the real payoff of this focus, for me, it's not about subscribers or views. It's about conquering that fear of being seen as imperfect, especially after a 40-year career where I was supposed to be the expert. It's about building those transferable skills. It's about creating a body of work that didn't exist before. And it's about proving to myself at 63 that I can still build hard things. That's not failure, my friends. That's growth with documentation. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? You need to be doing fewer things for more effect instead of doing more things with side effects. Every course you buy but don't finish, every tool you research but don't use, that's not neutral. It has a side effect. It actively drains your energy away from the one thing that will actually move the needle. And that brings us to our final and honestly, our most important section, your first focused action. Because look, I've shared my big rock with you. Now it's your turn. We've talked about it enough. Insight without action is just, well, it's expensive entertainment. So here's your challenge for this week. It's just 3 simple steps. First, name your big rock and be specific. Second, define your why. Get clear on why this really matters to you. And third, and this is the most important part, identify your very first doing action. Not a learning action, a doing action. What's the one thing you're going to do this week? Just one. Focus. One next step. Listen, if you're ready to build your second act with this kind of clarity, I'd love for you to join our free community. It's called the Retirepreneur Hub. You can find it over at retirepreneur.com. It's full of guides and checklists just for professionals 55 and over. So I'll leave you with the question that really started this whole conversation, the one that defines the entire journey ahead. So, what's your big rock?